Hey everybody, welcome back. Today we're going to be doing another Taste of Manga video. This is another one of my Patreon recommendations. By the way, I do have a Patreon. I'll link it down below in the description. There is a Discord server and some other rewards. We do like a monthly watch along of an anime movie, and you can also suggest me to review stuff and talk about manga or anime on the channel. And I want to give a big thank you in this particular video to my good friend Warpbait, a guy I've known on the internet for some time now, someone I consider a very close friend in my career of talking about Japanese cartoons. And there was a manga that he held near and a couple that he held near and dear to his heart, and two very very long series, and he let me choose among these two, and so I kind of flipped a coin in my head, and I went with Case Closed, or Detective Conan, or whatever the hell you want to call this, by Gosho Aoyama. And if you've never heard of Case Closed before, I'm going to question maybe you're living under a rock or something, but it is a very, very long, still airing manga series and anime adaptation. The manga has been going since 1994 and currently has 95 volumes in circulation and still going, apparently. And the anime adaptation, I don't remember when exactly it started, one moment. The anime adaptation started in 1996 and has 932 episodes. So, yeah. So, like, getting into this series was kind of daunting for me. And I'll be honest with you, at the start of this video, I don't really think I'm going to continue. But that's not necessarily like a negative strike on the series as a whole, because I've seen random episodes of the anime before, and it seems pretty cool. Of course, I didn't know anything about like a lot of like the events leading into it, but it's kind of cool because you can sort of, it's the type of anime where you can like watch like randomly like episode like 50, and if you if you know the characters and so forth, and like the little bit of background that the story has, if you know sort of like the preamble to it, everything else is just sort of a mystery story pertaining to like I think like one or two episodes. And so volume one is obviously where a lot of this starts, and this is sort of the origin of how our man Jimmy here gets turned back into a little kid, and he's a brilliant detective in a little kid body. And that's a very short summary of what it is. But at the beginning of it, he is not. He looks like a teenage guy here, and he's like in high school, I think, or like junior high, high school, and he's got this girl that he's friends with that he likes, but they're not dating just yet. He's at first unsure if she likes him the same way. Her dad is like a police inspector. The girl's name is Rachel, and I think they're in like the same grade. And she's the like captain of like the karate team at school or something, some like martial arts group. So she's she could beat people up and so forth, and also hit our man Jimmy here if he were to get out of line, I suppose. But it doesn't like do that to like an annoying extent, at least in this first volume. Uh, she does seem sort of she's kind of tsundere-esque, but like not to like an annoying level. Like she seems like a very likable character. Like I liked Rachel a lot in this first volume. Jimmy, I enjoyed. I feel like I would like it more if I knew more like about him, but I could see why maybe they go into that more in future volumes. But like you don't know a ton about like his like background or anything, other than that he just wants to. He has a strong affinity for solving mysteries and Sherlock Holmes and Sir Arthur Conan Doyle stuff, and so he, through circumstances, which I won't spoil too much of the events leading into it, because I want you to read this if you can. Our teenage friend Jimmy gets turned into he reverts back to a child form, like, I don't know, like 5, 6 years old or so, and he looks like this. But he's so mentally himself, kind of like erased. But like so, and there's very few people that know that it's still him, and he's gonna go around and he still solves his mysteries like he was. He was, even as a teenager, he was regarded for his like intellect and being able to solve these mysteries similar to his idol Sherlock Holmes. And now he's gonna do it with the challenge of being in this little kid body, which is an interesting sort of monkey wrench into it, because he now lacks the physical stature for any sort of physical engagement. People don't necessarily like believe the words of a kid, so like they don't. He could say something to someone and they just kind of write it off or so forth. However, he's very smart and he uses it to his advantage, where he's like, he'll know like where a clue is. Like, for example, if there's evidence in like the bathroom or something like that, instead of outwardly like saying like this is in the bathroom because I know it's there, he's already like deduced that, right? So as a kid, he's like, oh, I gotta go potty or whatever, which is brilliant because obviously the adult's gonna go take him to the bathroom and see what's going on or whatever. So I like that aspect. I think it's a very it's like a simple kind of thing, but it's genius in the sense that like, yeah, he's set up the story that way it can kind of go on forever. I mean, and it has, because he is in this little kid body. So in theory, I would assume that he could age again. So he's gonna like could potentially live like through another life. Obviously, he wants to go back to his teenage form, especially finding out that Rachel kind of blatantly just says to little kid version, because Rachel does not know that this is her friend, by the way. She can't put two and two together, I guess. But she tells this little kid version of Jimmy, who goes by Conan, that she likes Jimmy, seemingly as more than a friend. So, sad face for our man Jimmy here, because he is now a little kid, and he can't be with the girl that he potentially loves for at least a little while. There's cool gadgets in here. He's got this like mentor kind of older dude who whip up a bunch of gadgets. He's like one of the only people that knows that Jimmy is now in this little kid form. He has this like bow tie thing that like changes his voice. So sometimes he can use like on like phone calls and so forth to sound like an adult. Sound like his normal self or whatever. But yeah, in terms of art, I actually like. I don't know if this is even like debated much at all, but like for what I saw of like the anime, I liked the way that like characters look in this, surprisingly enough, and which is weird because I kind of like stuff to look more like realistic, and like these characters certainly look like anime manga characters. But there's a lot of like detail into it, and I don't know. I like it. Like I like how like everybody's got like these big eyes and stuff like that, but everybody like conveys emotion very well. There's a lot going on in the panels of this. Again, not like the most like actiony thing in the world, but like when you're talking about some murder cases and stuff like that, you're going to get some interesting art with like, you know, like stabbings, and there's actually like a beheading that goes on with this. But yeah, very good art. I will say that very much. I did not necessarily think that the art would be very good, like at least in like this first volume. I figured maybe this guy had like started this project and then like obviously it became super popular. So I thought like early on maybe the art wouldn't be that good, and I was very, very impressed. So I would not be surprised if like with the success that this has had, that the future volumes look even more beautiful, which they probably do. But yeah, there's not a lot of like negative I can really say about this, aside from like, I mean, if you don't like mystery stories, obviously, you wouldn't really be into this. I really like Law and Order and stuff like that, so I kind of like the whole like trying to solve stuff. It does a very good job of sort of giving you options of the culprit. Like usually there's like a couple that it could be. And you try to sort of solve it in your head, and you're kind of in a race with Jimmy here to solve it. And I like that aspect of it. It's not painfully obvious all of the time. There's like, I think there's 3 mysteries in this first volume, sort of. The first one was really cool. It was the one with like the beheading that I told you about, on this like roller coaster thing. That one was cool. There's a middle one that I wasn't really that into, and I don't honestly remember all that much. It was like a kidnap kind of story with a weird conclusion. And then the last one was probably the most interesting of the 3. And if you've read this, then you know what I'm talking about. With this like pop idol and this person that was found dead in her apartment or hotel room or something. But that one ended very interestingly too. So it's written very well. It's drawn very well. I can see why people would really, really like this. If you're at all into mysteries and have not checked this out at all, I don't think have a ton of mystery anime and manga out there. So I would highly recommend at least checking out this first volume, if not trying to watch the show. But you know, good luck ever finishing it. But you don't really have to. Like, you don't have to necessarily like go out and watch every episode of Law and Order to enjoy it, right? I don't think you have to go out and watch every single episode of Case Closed to enjoy it. Or maybe even read every volume. But you probably want to start with this one just because it gives like a little bit of backstory and stuff like that. So thank you again, Warpbait. I highly enjoyed that manga. Once again, you can join the Patreon down below, guys, if you want to suggest something for me. If you have read Case Closed, let me know what you thought about it down below. And if you like what I'm doing here, please make sure to smash that subscribe button and that thumb up and the bell or whatever, that thing that doesn't work. You can hit that too. And thank you so much for joining, guys. My name is Miasma, and I'm signing out.